Hello and welcome to The Perspective on NTV World. I am Sabika Shrestha, your host for the weekly current affairs program. Here we pick the major news of the week, unpack its significance and examine how today's decisions shape tomorrow's direction. This week's key issues include election security, final poll preparations, voter movement, Code of Conduct enforcement, youth participation, and the government's move to ensure the safety of Nepalis affected by the attacks on Iran. The cabinet has prioritized rescuing and safeguarding Nepali nationals abroad, with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs confirming their protection as a top concern. With March 5 approaching, the Election Commission of Nepal says 18.9 million voters are eligible to cast ballots. Around 48 million ballot papers have been printed and distributed, while over 150,000 security personnel are deployed nationwide. The Nepali army will transport ballot boxes to counting centers after polling. Authorities have acted against Code of Conduct violators, tighten monitoring as the silence period nears, and arrange a special transport for tourists. In Kathmandu, voters are travelling home in large numbers, while first-time Gen Z voters voice strong expectations for accountable leadership. The government has decided to facilitate the safety and rescue of Nepali nationals stranded in Nepal and other countries due to the attacks on Iran. At a cabinet meeting, it was decided to ensure proper security and holding arrangements for passengers stranded in transit at Tribhuvan International Airport and other international airports after flights were cancelled due to unrest. Foreign Minister Balananda Sharma said the government will direct concerned embassies and diplomatic missions to arrange secure accommodation for affected passengers in countries where flights are currently suspended.
नेपालबाट बाहिर जाने विदेशी कामदारहरूलाई चाहिँ नि सर्वप्रथम नेपालकै अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय एयरपोर्टमा परेका समस्याहरूबारे यही नै समाधान भइसकेको छ र यसलाई चाहिँ नि श्रम मन्त्रालय, पर्यटन मन्त्रालय र परराष्ट्र मन्त्रालय तीनवटा मन्त्रालयले सहकार्य गरेर यहाँको समस्या समाधान भइसकेको छ र ट्राभल एडभाइजरीहरू प्रकाशन भइसकेका छन्। ट्रान्जिटमा परेका नेपाली कामदारहरू र प्यासेन्जरहरूलाई हरेक देशका राजदूतहरूलाई चाहिँ नि समन्वय गरेर उहाँहरूलाई सम्पर्कमा आएर उहाँहरूलाई गन्तव्यमा पुर्याउने अथवा जान नसक्नेहरूलाई चाहिँ नि होटलमा छन् भनेदेखि सम्बन्धित व्यवसाय दिने कम्पनी अथवा एयरलाइन्सहरूले चाहिँ रेखदेख गर्ने गरी समन्वय भइसकेको छ। सबै एयरपोर्टहरू बन्द भएको हुनाले कसैलाई फर्काउन पनि सकिँदैन, अगाडि लान पनि सकिँदैन। अहिले जहाँ छ त्यहीँ नै सेफ्टी र सिक्युरिटी दिएर राख्ने मात्र प्रबन्ध भएको छ।
Meanwhile, the government of Nepal has stated that it is prioritizing the safety of Nepali citizens residing in Middle East and Gulf countries. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs held a press conference and confirmed that the security of Nepalis in the affected areas is a top priority. Ramkazi Khadka, Under Secretary at the MOFA's Department of Central Asia, West Asia and Africa, stated that a travel advisory has been issued for the affected regions.
मध्य पूर्वमा रहेका नेपालीहरू सुरक्षित हुनुहुन्छ। मध्य पूर्व स्थित विभिन्न मुलुकमा रहेका 10 वटा नेपाली नियोगहरू त्यहाँ रहेका नेपाली कम्युनिटीहरूसँग निरन्तर सम्पर्कमा हुनुहुन्छ। उहाँहरूको अवस्था बुझिरहनु भएको छ र परराष्ट्र मन्त्रालयमा रिपोर्ट गरिराख्नु भएको छ।
Khadka said in Iran there are 10 Nepalis, of whom 4 have returned to Nepal and 6 remain. Similarly, the ministry reported that around 6,500 Nepalis are working in Israel. The Election Commission of Nepal has said a total of 18.9 million registered voters are eligible to cast their ballots, including 9.66 million men, 9.24 million women and 200 others in the March 5 polls. Under the first past the post system, 3,406 candidates are contesting, while 3,135 candidates are running under the proportional representation system. The election will take place across 10,567 polling stations and 23,112 polling centers, with an additional 143,000 temporary polling locations arranged nationwide. To ensure a free, fair and secure election, over 700,000 security personnel will be deployed. Alongside 245,000 election officials, a total of 42 observer organizations will monitor the electoral process. A total of 65 political parties are participating under the first past the post system, while 63 parties are contesting under proportional representation. The Election Commission said all arrangements have been completed to facilitate a transparent and inclusive voting process. The Nepali Army has stated that, as in previous elections, a joint security team will transport ballot boxes to counting centers after voting concludes in the March 5 House of Representatives elections. In a statement, Nepal Army said the team will include Nepal Police, Armed Police Force, the election officer, designated party representatives and the NA following existing protocols. The Army recalled its role since 2048 BS in guarding ballot paper printing centers, transporting ballot papers nationwide, providing third-tier security and escorting ballot boxes to counting centers. It reaffirmed its commitment to coordinating with concerned agencies under the Integrated Security Plan to ensure a safe election. With Nepal's House of Representatives elections days away, federal capital Kathmandu is witnessing a noticeable exodus. People from capital city are heading back to their hometowns, eager to exercise their democratic right to vote in the upcoming elections. The streets and transport hubs are abuzz with travelers, reflecting the nation's anticipation and civic engagement as the election day draws near. Rosina Rai with our colleague Saraswati Tamang brings more.
The bustling federal capital of Nepal, Kathmandu, is witnessing a mass migration ahead of the general election on March 5th. With the date approaching, thousands of people working in the city are making the journey back home to exercise their voting rights. A significant portion of Kathmandu's population consists of internal migrants who remain registered voters in their ancestral villages. Across the city, major transit points like New Bus Park, Kalanki, Kotesor and Balkhu are crowded with travelers. According to Kathmandu Valley Traffic Police Office, nearly 300,000 people have already left the valley over the past week. While normally around 80,000 commuters travel in and out of Kathmandu weekly, but the election season has caused this number to rise.
पहिलेको तुलना भन्दा यात्रुको बढी चाप बढेकै छ हैन गाडीहरु पनि उताबाट एक्स्ट्रा गाडीहरु आइरहेका छन् नाइटमा पनि तपाईको चाहिँ डेमा भन्दा नाइटमा अझै बढी चाप बढिरहेको छ
म चाहिँ माइती यहाँ टोखा भयो उता लमजुङ चाहिँ बुढोको घर अनि त्यताबाट भोट हाल्नको लागि चाहिँ हामी आज जाँदै छौं.
With a few days still left before the vote, authorities expect the flow of returning voters to increase even further. Across roads, bus terminals and highways, one thing is clear: Nepal's people are on the move, driven by their hopes, voices and the power of their vote. While residential areas feel emptier in capital, streets are dominated by security patrols, including the Nepal Army, to maintain order following last year's unrest.
With just a couple of days to go for election, concerns are growing over whether persons with disabilities will be able to participate fully and independently in the voting process. It is estimated that nearly 650,000 individuals, or about 2% of the population, are living with disabilities. Advocates say this significant voting bloc continues to face structural and physical barriers during elections. Disability rights organizations argue that major political parties have largely ignored disability-related issues in their manifestos. They also note that campaign rallies and public events often lack basic accessibility features. Community leaders are calling on election authorities to make polling stations fully disability friendly. Their key demands include ramps for wheelchair users, braille ballots for voters with visual impairments, trained volunteers to assist voters when needed, clear sign and safe barrier-free movement within polling centers. Rights groups stress that equal access to voting is a constitutional guarantee and fundamental to an inclusive democracy. They say the response of authorities in the coming days will determine whether the elections are truly accessible to all the citizens. Ballot papers and election materials are now in place across Nepal as the country heads into the final days before the March 5 polls. The Election Commission says preparations are almost complete with 20 million ballots printed for first-past-the-post seats and 28 million for proportional representation. Our colleague Aprila Ghising Lama looks at what's set for the polls.
The Election Commission says preparations are in the final phase. Election materials and ballot papers have been sent to 75 of 77 districts. Kathmandu and Bhaktapur will receive theirs on Thursday. Both first-past-the-post and proportional representation ballots are ready. Altogether, 20.03 million ballot papers have been printed for the first-past-the-post election category, with 28.30 million for PR system of election. In remote mountainous regions, including election materials, ballot papers, voter lists, ink markers and security seals were airlifted by Nepal Army aircraft to reach isolated polling centers. The Election Commission is monitoring election publicity and complaints of campaign disruptions. The Election Code of Conduct is in force. Candidates, parties and affiliates must not disrupt programs, rallies or meetings. Voter education campaigns continue nationwide to inform citizens about the voting process and their rights, while parties carry on with active campaigning. With logistics almost complete, the focus now shifts to implementation and enforcement. The coming week will test how smoothly the system operates and whether the code of conduct is upheld. Nepal moves closer to March 5, with the Election Commission keeping a close watch to ensure a fair and orderly election, and results are expected quickly after voting concludes.
The Election Commission of Nepal has taken action against 8 individuals and sought clarifications from 94 people for breaching the Election Code of Conduct. 57 clarifications have been received from the political parties and candidates, while re-clarifications have been sought from 6 individuals, according to the Election Commission. Government and non-government offices, media houses and journalists are also in the list that the Election Commission has held responsible for the violation of the Election Code of Conduct. As of now, 1,076 complaints about the breaching of the Code of Conduct have been received from across the country, while 1,061 have been already sorted out. The highest number of complaints are from the Lumbini province. 4 different election observer organizations of Nepal have stated that the environment for the upcoming House of Representatives polls has advanced positively and peacefully in terms of preparations and security arrangements. Organizing a press meet in Kathmandu, the National Election Observation Committee NEOC, General Election Observation Committee GOC, NGO Federation Nepal and Election Observation Committee Nepal said the nation has been gripped by the polls fervor with election canvassing in full swing. The 4 organizations have also urged one and all to make the election a success, adding that the election was a pillar for democratic system. The organizations have appealed to the voters to make the polls a success through public participation, adding that ensuring a free, fair and fearless election was a shared responsibility of all. Nepal's first-time young voters are turning out for the March 5 election with hopes of reshaping the country's leadership. These Gen Z voters demand a government that delivers on promises rather than speeches. Here's a report. This election is seeing more than 900,000 youngsters who in majority are voting for the first time ever. The youths appear highly enthusiastic about voting in the upcoming election to choose qualified and capable leadership for the country. These are the same chunk of people representing the Gen Z generation that led the September 8-9 protests that paved the way for the snap election in Nepal, which is scheduled for March 5. They are highly enthusiastic about voting in the upcoming election to choose qualified and capable leadership for the country. They hope for a better future and a corruption-free society with transparent governance. Although parties have promised to end corruption and maintain good governance in the past, those promises never turned into reality. Hence, they expect the government formed after the March 5 election to make a fresh start. They are also calling for increased investment in education and health, development of institutions providing technical and practical training, and industrial growth to create jobs at home, ending the need to go abroad for work. As polling day draws near, these young voters see the election not only as a chance to select representatives, but also as a means to end years of administrative malpractice and corruption.
यो निर्वाचन भइसकेपछि देशमा अलिकति शान्ति आउँछ, स्थायित्व आउँछ, अलि सिस्टम बस्छ भन्ने छ।
पहिलाको जस्तो करप्सन धेरै नहोस् हैन, अनि जनता र त्यो पोलिटिकल लिडर्सहरु गभर्नमेन्ट र जनतामा चाहिँ ट्रान्सपेरेन्सी मेन्टेन होस्।
पोलिटिकल स्टेबिलिटी ट्रान्सपेरेन्सी भयो, त्यसपछि मान्छेहरु विदेश नजाओस्, यही बसेर काम गरोस्, रोजगार पाओस्।
करप्सन फ्री हैन, आफ्नो स्वार्थ भन्दा पनि जनताको लागि काम गर्नु पर्यो। अनि अब राम्रो देश विकास हुनु पर्यो, अब युवाहरुको लागि अपर्चुनिटीहरु चाहियो।
Disgusted by delays in government service delivery, financial irregularities at every door, and corruption flourishing under political protection, the youth are searching for leadership that will end all these malpractices this time. Their sole demand and expectation is that the new government to be formed should not just limit its promises to speeches, but should guarantee good governance for the general public in practice. The Ministry of Home Affairs says security arrangements are fully in place for the upcoming parliamentary elections. Over 150,000 election police and other national security forces have been deployed across all 77 districts. Here's a report.
The Ministry of Home Affairs has expressed confidence that the House of Representatives election scheduled for March 5 will be conducted in a peaceful environment, stating that security arrangements across the country have been fully strengthened. According to the ministry, nearly 150,000 temporary election police personnel have been mobilized. They are working alongside Nepal Police, the Armed Police Force, the Nepal Army, and the National Investigation Department, with all security bodies placed on high alert and in full preparedness. Election activities are underway in all 77 districts across the 7 provinces. A total of 3,406 candidates are contesting under the first-past-the-post system for 165 constituencies, while 3,135 candidates are competing under the proportional representation system. Authorities say continuous coordination meetings are being held at district, provincial, and federal levels to ensure that the elections are conducted in a free, fair, impartial, and fear-free environment. Under the Integrated Election Security Plan, the government has deployed 78,000 Nepali Army personnel, 70,000 Nepal police officers, 34,000 armed police force personnel, 150,000 election police, and 2,000 National Investigation Department staff. The ministry has also arranged security for candidates based on necessity and threat assessment, reiterating its confidence in the peaceful completion of the polls.
निर्वाचनको दिन र निर्वाचन पश्चातका दिनका जुन हाम्रा अब निर्वाचन पश्चात जुन हाम्रो जुन गतिविधिहरू हुन्छन्, विजयका जुलुसहरू हुन सक्लान् अथवा मतदान प्रक्रिया टुङ्गिने विषयहरू छन्, यी सबै कुराहरूलाई हामीले हेरेर चाहिँ हाम्रो सुरक्षा योजना तयार गरेका छौँ र यही अनुसार चाहिँ हाम्रो चाहिँ सुरक्षा कर्मीहरू चाहिँ अहिले कार्यस्थलमा खटिएर सो अनुसार गरिरहेको अवस्था छ। त्यसैले आजको दिनसम्म आइपुग्दाखेरि हामीले जुन समय सारिणी अनुसार हामीलाई कार्य सम्पादन गर्नुपर्ने थियो ती कामहरू भइरहेको अवस्था छ र अहिले जुन जिल्लामा साथीहरूले जुन काम गरिरहनु भएको छ त्यो काम गरेका कारणले नै हामीले अहिले शान्ति सुरक्षाको एउटा सुदृढ अवस्था चाहिँ एउटा कायम गर्न सकेका छौँ भन्ने लाग्छ।
Special security measures will be in place for polling stations, ballot box transportation, and vote counting centers. According to the Election Commission, there are 10,967 polling locations and 23,112 polling centers across the country.
The Election Commission has announced special arrangements for tourist transport on polling day for the House of Representatives election. According to spokesperson Narayan Prasad Vatrai, vehicles carrying tourists can operate if permission is obtained at least 2 days in advance from district administration offices or the commission in Kathmandu. The guidelines allow movement of authorized vehicles on highways while maintaining order, and exceptions are made for essential services, diplomatic missions and the Human Rights Commission. National and international flights will continue as scheduled, ensuring minimal disruption. That's the perspective for this week. We will be back next week with major highlights of the week. Thank you for watching NTV World.